Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Index Office Hours. Today is the 5th of March, and this is Index Office Hours 147. That's incredible. There we go. There we go. Thank you so much for the round of applause there. It is unbelievable that we're at this number here. It's a huge feat. Almost at 150. Almost at 150. Index Office Hours is the town square where graph ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers, if you don't already know, for anyone who is new. This is a conversation and we love participation. So if you'd like to get involved in today's conversation, please do by commenting in the comment box to your right. And also, we have the option to voice your opinion via voice. So if you have any issues there trying to unmute your mic, let me know and I'll try and get that sorted for you. Thank you, Juan, for that makes me feel old. Yes, Alexi, you're an OG member. Yeah, that's really cool. Maybe I mean, we have to do something special for 150. Maybe we'll do special POAP or a special I'll think of something. I'll think of something. Yeah, OG. Oh, swag, that's a tall order. But I could try and see if we can make that happen because it might be a bit difficult to ship out to everyone, seeing that we have contributors from all around the world. But TBD, let's see. This is going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you're concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. And with that, let's get into today's agenda. So we have episode 158 with Chris Ware, who is the CEO of Verdia. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they're focused on personalization and allowing users to own and control their own data using crypto technology. This is an interesting podcast episode. Going through Chris's background, how he got interested in crypto, and also a bit about his company and how they leverage the graph as well. So yeah, if you're interested in learning a bit about Chris and his company, do check that out there. So yeah, thank you so much, Juan, for sharing the episode right there. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Anna for our regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Abel, and hello, everyone. All right, so today into Repo Watch, we have on execution layer clients a new version of Firehose Ethereum. Is version 2.3.5, and some of the things you need to know about this is that the release deprecates RPC cache, so ETH_cache costs, feature of substreams, and the substreams RPC also adds a substream RPC gas limit flag to allow overriding the default of 50 million. And this is specifically happening because Arbitrum chains behave better with the value of 0 in order to avoid the intrinsic gas too low errors on Arbitrum. And then also the reader node bootstrap URL CLI flag has gained the ability to be bootstrapped from a bash script. There's other updates, but those are the main ones. And Matthew is saying that the new Firehose speeds up substring processing a lot in certain cases. Thank you. All right, next one, we've had a new release from Avalanche. This is 1.11.2. And this release fixes mempool push gossip amplification, but it also deprecates a bunch of APIs. So IPC API, Auth API, and keystore related methods from the platform API. The release on Arbitrum Nitro. This is 2.3.1. This fixes validators EIP 4844 batches and improves EIP 4844 blob-based batch posting performance and reliability. There is a recommendation to still wait for more testing before enabling EIP 4844 batch posting for Arbitrum orbit chains. And this is all we have on execution layer. For Arbitrum Nitro, we are running this on Arbitrum Sepolia without any issues. And then on consensus layer client, we have no new releases, and same with the graph stack. Yeah, this is it for me this week. So over to you, Juan.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch, we'll start with firm governance as always. There's been an update in Graph Horizon Explained, a proposal for the evolution of the protocol, mainly a discussion with the between Brandon and Pablo. Pretty interesting regarding, permissionless stuff, as well as, how to approach, slowly getting into a permissionless scenario, and what parts of the stack or the, solution are worth it to be permissionless, and which ones are a little bit more debatable. It's a pretty interesting read, so I would I would say everyone should probably read it. Okay, cool. Next, getting into forum research, we have all of the core dev updates, given that it's the first week of March. That includes Edge and Node, the Guild, Messari, Pinax, Semiotic Labs, GraphOps, Streaming Fast, and Geo. Again, they are pretty lengthy, so they're linked in the agenda if you're interested in any of those teams. For the contracts repository, we have a few experimental changes to Horizon staking. We also have a closed PR for dependency bumps, as well as merged PR for code linting and formatting. And then for the network subgraphs, we don't have any new updates. Last week we did a whole bunch of updates on network subgraphs. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out in the previous agenda, you can find them. And that's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. So I'm gonna be handing over to Paka for Project Watch.
Everyone, share the link and share my screen. Presentation for today, and hopefully it doesn't take 10 hours to share the slides. Okay. Could I get a confirmation if it is sharing or not?
Yes, sir, indeed.
Swell. Okay, so I know you all are waiting all week for this, so let's just get right into it. I'm Paka, in case you don't know me, but you probably know me. So this week, as usual, I'm going to go into indexer components, graph node, and then the trademark glorious outro animation. So some work in indexer components still ongoing is the enabling cost models when multi-network mode is enabled in an indexer agent. Let me know if you have had any issues running cost models on Arbitrum with multi-network mode off, but should work. So just let us know. But hoping to get this out soon, TM. Hopefully we're not skeletons first. Quickly pivoting to graph node. I've been teasing this for a little while already, but we're really excited about aggregations in graph node. And so I just want to continue the hype train, maybe check out the repo, let us know what you think. But this is currently enabled on the kind of studio upgrade indexer just to get some early beta testing. We were encouraging people at ETH Denver to try it out too, but we're planning on getting this out into the next release, which will be coming sooner than soon TM, but maybe in the next week or so. Another graph node feature is the support for indexed argument filtering. We started work on this last week, and this should really help with subgraph syncing time. And I've included a screenshot of kind of the at least current developer experience. This might not be the final one, but this is kind of what we're leaning towards currently, where people would, at the event handler level, be able to filter by a topic. And you can see here how there's two different examples where you can filter by addresses, and this can significantly reduce the amount of data that the subgraph is processing. Similarly, we're really trying to optimize subgraph performance in graph node. And so our team's been working on parallelizing ETH calls. This is kind of a huge bottleneck, having to process them serially. And so really excited about work in this vein. Also, this is kind of a prototype developer experience, so this might not be the final one that ends up, but this is kind of giving you a teaser on what it might look like where we're able to parallelize these ETH calls because developers can declare them in the subgraph manifest. And then final tease for the next release of GraphNode, when the world will be amazing and perfect in our solarpunk utopia. This next release will change everything. The world will never be the same. And I just want to continue the hype train. And so hoping to get out the next release likely next week. But I will keep you posted as timelines adjust. And then finally, the aforementioned glorious outro animation with my handsome face and the GIF created by Carl. So rejoice. Have a great week. And let me know if you have any questions.
Love that. That was amazing. Okay, I will make space for questions.
I gotta I need to get some tools, like sounds and stuff, like a rain stick. Yeah.
Yeah, your mic is really, really good.
Shout out to the MacBook Pro in a quiet room.
Really? Genuinely? It's just the MacBook Pro speakers? That's impressive.
I'm
16-inch?
using headphones and just speaking into a MacBook Pro. That's
16-inch?
14? I
14?
don't even know, man.
Okay. The big one or the small one?
Quietest room in the
14-inch.
universe.
It's the quietest room in the universe. Yeah, it's surprisingly good. I'm very impressed.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it just yeah.
Awesome. Mike seems to be typing, so there may be a question coming. He clearly doesn't have 4 kids. That's funny. Yeah, shout out to Apple.
Quiet house.
Yeah, shout out to Apple, CC, Juan, if you're here. Alrighty. If there are any questions, feel free to shout or type in the chat. I know Juan is going to write a lovely comment about Apple, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Okay. In the meantime, I will move on to the next topic. I was holding myself. Okay, cool. So we have Alexei, who is joined us today. He's an OG member of and contributor to IOH, and he has various topics he's going to speak about. One of them is TAP, as well as other various things. I won't spoil too much, and I will hand over to Alexei to get into it.
Hey, yeah. I'm going to share my screen first. Let's hope that works nicely. Not full quality, because we know that's going to be not so great. Okay. Seems to be working. You guys can see it's all good?
Yes, sir. It just came through.
Awesome. Let's do this. Not this. This. There you go. Still good.
Yep, we see the Discord screen.
Oh, that is.
It's like that shell,
not...
like it keeps going into infinite.
Very nice. Okay. How about that?
Still Discord.
Still Discord. Oh my God. Why you do this to me, Discord? Discord, you're so weird.
It is actually not the best tool for screen sharing and calls and stuff. But it's where everyone is, so I guess. I would love to do like breakout rooms and stuff on Discord, but I don't think, unless you have a bot, using a bot that was built by someone, you can't really do that. So yeah. Discord.
Oh,
yeah, okay,
I think
perfect.
now it's working, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
we can see
that
the
was
presentation.
that was fun. Right. Okay. Yes, dev update. It's a bit rough, right? I'm just gonna quickly do well, a dev update, not polished. So yeah, here we go. What is TAP? Timeline Aggregation Protocol, a new micropayment system we're building for indexers to receive query payments. And we will not go into details here about the protocol. So go to core devs call number 22, QR code here, if you want to understand why it actually works and why it can be trusted. I'm going to explain mostly what indexers are going to experience. So yeah, because I think it's more on theme, right? Indexer office hours, etc. Right? Yeah, cool.
Indeed.
So we have here, so in my schematics, I'm going to show two things, right? The consumer, of course, there technically there's going to be multiple consumers, right? But a consumer and an indexer. We got new / rewritten components in green here. So on the indexer side, we have indexer service rewritten in Rust, rejoice. Hopefully no more weird memory leaks and more performance and more maintainability, and yeah, everybody's happy, and more devs are going to be willing to participate too, I guess. So that's pretty great. And so why the new indexer service? Because it made it easier to integrate with the new TAP system, and because the indexer service was really probably the easiest component of the indexer stack to port. I wouldn't volunteer for indexer agent. It's a big boy. So yeah, but yeah, indexer service, mostly Hope and Yanis really, and my part in there is the TAP bits. So yeah, shout out to Hope and Yanis. TAP agent, a new component that's going to be, let's say, overlooking the operations. You're going to understand later on in the presentation what that TAP agent does. But yeah, new component that the indexers are going to have to run. Indexer agent is being updated as we speak here. It's going to support, and the main thing that it needs updated is supporting the redeeming of the TAP receipt aggregate vouchers, which we call RAVs, on chain. We're sticking to indexer agent doing all on-chain bits. On the consumer side, Gateways is already updated, actually. It is backwards compatible with the current system, so that's why you didn't see any change yet. But it support when it detects that it's indexer service 1.0 or more on the indexer side, it will send the new receipts, the new format of receipts. And the consumer is also running a new component called TAP aggregator that's going to deal with aggregating the individual query receipts into receipt aggregate vouchers that are redeemable on chain. I'm going to go into details later, right? And so in the middle, we got the internet. You can recognize that box. That is the internet, right? So yeah, internet between consumer and indexer. Okay, so by the way, perhaps if you have any questions, you can stop me, or maybe Abel, if you see something in the chat that I should, because I cannot see the chat right now. So interrupt me if you think I should pause a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yep. Well, I'll definitely flag it.
Yep. So yeah, first step. So it's very rough, right? I really wanted to show the flow and the experience. So the consumer will put money into a TAP escrow contract for the particular indexer it wants to do business with. So what that means is that consumer will probably set up many escrows for the many indexers, right? And yeah, money gets locked in there. So that's the first step. Then indexer opens an allocation. Okay. So now we see the gateway sends a query, linked with a TAP receipt to the indexer service. The indexer service, if it thinks that things are all right, it will send the query to GraphNode and a TAP receipt to a Postgres table that's to store the receipts, and it will send a Postgres notification with a bunch of values to tap agent. So it will tell tap agent, hey, I mean, the database will say to tap agent, hey, I just received, a tap receipt with that much money in it from that consumer for that particular allocation. That's it. So the tap agent is not pulling the tables. If you've all heard of PG Notify, but it's a pub sub system that's in Postgres. So it can do message passing type stuff. It's very light and fast, right? Cool. Yeah, so tap agent will continuously, I mean, the flow is for many queries, right? So we receive many queries, we accumulate those tap receipts, we save them all into the table. Tap agent gets notified for each of them. It's like, hey, I received 20 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, etc. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Eventually, the tap agent will determine that, well, the sum of receipts, the sum of the receipts value for that consumer is over a certain trigger that the indexer will, and that trigger will start an aggregation request. So the tap agent will get all the receipts for that consumer and one of the allocations that the consumer has been paying for from the tap receipts table. It's going to check those receipts. It's also going to get the last RAV that we got for that consumer and indexer, that consumer and allocation, sorry, if there is one. And it will send all that to the consumer's tap aggregator, such that so the consumer, what's going to do is that it's going to see all the receipts and the last RAV, see that it was the one signing that had signed those. So that's how the consumer trusts its own receipts that went through the indexer and back. And it will just accumulate all the values together and create a new receipt aggregate voucher that will send back to the tap agent like this. The tap agent will delete the receipts that got aggregated into that RAV, and it will replace the latest RAV we got for that consumer and allocation. And it's going to also reset its internal counter for unaggregated receipts. Perhaps here I should pause because that was probably a lot of information. Are you guys still with me?
Yes.
Cool.
We are following. We are following indeed. In fact, so much so that there are questions in the chat. So if you want to take this opportunity to pause and respond to them, you're more than welcome to. Can you see the chat?
Yeah, I went back to the chat.
Yep. I've labeled all of them with question marks.
More memes. Oh, there you go. Thanks.
Yeah.
Is the escrow contract an on-chain transaction? Yes, the escrow contract is a new contract. Actually, I'm gonna share with you all the repos. You can even inspect the contract. But yeah, new contract. Is the consumer gateway selecting the indexer? And well, so there's no rule about how the gateway decides which indexers it will create escrow contracts for. What we do know is that Edge&No has been working on an automated system to create those escrows, and it will just, spray far and wide, basically, right? But there isn't really a way to force a consumer to set up escrow contracts with all the indexers. So yeah, though we can see on chain if they did or not. So if you want to do a punishment for this, it's possible, I guess. If the RAVs are spent per consumer, are we going to then have access to differentiate consumers in some way?
Yeah, just to be a little bit more specific. So my understanding, like right now, indexers receive payment from the gateway, right? Or that's kind of the way that we think about this.
Yeah.
And there's a singular contract, and that sends us our token, right? But in this example, it looks like we're going to be receiving payment directly from the consumers, and the consumers are in some way going to have the different escrow contracts.
Oh yeah, I
And
see. I see the misunderstanding. Yeah, yeah. What I call consumer here is what we call the gateway today is a consumer. I know it's a little
I
bit
got it. So
weird, but
not consumer like a front end querying a subgraph. The consumer being
yes,
a
at the
gateway of some kind.
yeah, because I
Okay,
didn't know
got it.
I didn't know how to refer to things, because otherwise I would say the gateway, like here, the gateway contains the gateway and app aggregator, and I was like, that's pretty weird. But I think it's good to call it consumer, because it will help people envision what will happen when gateways become trustless.
Yeah, when there's multiple different types of gateways.
Because today we see
That makes
gateways
sense.
really as that bridge between a public HTTPS endpoint, GraphQL endpoint, and a decentralized network. But we can imagine that, for example, large consumers could set up their own quote unquote gateway just for their own needs. So that could be random example, right? It's probably not what's going on, but let's say Uniswap. They're big consumers. So they may just say, Baka, very nice. That exactly is my thinking there. So you could imagine that Uniswap, because they're bulk large consumer, they may want to connect directly to the indexers. They don't want to go through a third-party gateway because maybe they don't want to. And so they could just pay directly indexers, set up their own quote unquote gateway just for their own subgraph. And by these, they could also set up escrows for only the indexers that are allocated to their subgraph. So that way they set up less escrow contracts. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, consumers. It's a more let's call it a more general term that's more open-ended for the awesome future of the graph, right?
Cool, makes sense.
Does that? Yeah, cool, awesome. Yes. So yeah, aggregate, etc. Yeah, and so you can see we just do that basically all the time, right? Many queries. Oh, we're over a certain limit. Call the consumer for an aggregation. Get a new RAV, more queries, right? Again and again and again, rinse and repeat, right? That makes sense, right? And so at any point so basically what happens is that you have most of your query fees that are in a single RAV that you update all the time, basically, right? And that RAV is always redeemable on chain because it's very small and it's just normal EIP 712 message. And the tap contracts, they will recognize that and they will send you the money, right? And it's one RAV per indexer consumer allocation triplet, basically, right? That's how it's implemented. So you can redeem only once for a given allocation and consumer. So usually you wait for allocation closure. You would wait for allocation closure to redeem your RAV because you can't. It will spend that allocation basically from your point of view, and you can't redeem it again. That makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, closing allocation. So we do the all aggregation dance once more. This time we don't wait for any type of trigger. We just do it one last time once we're sure that there's not going to be any more queries. So that usually happens a little bit after allocation closure. There's a little bit of margins baked in even today, right, in the indexer agent. But yeah, we get the latest RAV that we might mark final, by the way. So that's pretty important. So that will tell the indexer agent that well, the very latest RAV is successful and that contains all the query fees. for that particular allocation and consumer. Then the indexer agent will redeem the RAV on chain against the tap escrow contract. The escrow will release the amount to the graph staking contract, such that it then goes, through splitting between delegators and et cetera, and the indexer gets its cut, like today, right? So it basically injects the money into today's flow, right, of the staking contract. All good?
Yep, no questions. Oh, actually, one just came through. What does the RAV look like?
So the RAV, okay,
Just some
so
hash.
the best way would be to look at to watch 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗪 call number 22. It's got all the details, all right? But yeah, if you want the list of things that are in a RAV, there is a timestamp, there is a total amount of GRT to be paid, there's an allocation and a consumer address. All of that is an EIP 712 struct that is signed by the consumer. But yeah, 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗪 call number 22, that really contains all those details. That's really user experience that I'm talking about in this presentation more than details of how it actually works, right? But there are reasons why it wasn't so trivial for all that time to how to set up, a trustless micropayment system. There's some weird details in there. Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, you may wonder, okay, what if the consumer is not nice with us? So it's very simple explanation, right? But there's another trigger, which is called here I called it the deny trigger. Actually, I made a mistake. I don't request an aggregate here. Let me correct that to avoid any confusion. I mean, we would request if there's a problem with the total number of the receipt value. Of course, it's going to try again to get an aggregate. But let's say, so many things can happen here. For example, we can have a lot of invalid receipts that we couldn't ask the consumer to aggregate, and that we basically keep track of all that unaggregated amount of receipts, even if they're bad. The consumer could also refuse to aggregate for us. And so as we continue to serve queries, the amount of unaggregated receipts will go up and up and up, way over the RAV request trigger, all the way up to the deny trigger. So when we reach the deny trigger, a tap agent will just add the consumer's address to a deny list. That's going to notify Indexer service, and it's going to stop immediately serving that consumer. So as simple as that. Just no more business until the amount of unaggregated receipts goes under the deny trigger. Yeah. Any more questions? That's pretty much all I have in terms of showing what the flow is going to be. What I could add though is this is not really an official announcement that it's out. We are still testing locally that system. Actually, we managed to redeem a RAV, do a full integration, local testing, and redeem a RAV with the indexer agent last Friday, if I remember well. And there's still some rough bits. You can see maybe a few more details as to what's going on in the latest core dev update we posted on the Graphs forum. But yeah, the plan is that once we feel that the local testing is satisfactory and it doesn't just, break on its own very easily, we will actually request the InfraDAO's help with testing. As I said earlier, the gateway, at least on the testnet, fairly certain on the mainnet too, it already has the tap compatibility. Edgenode's already running the aggregator, so InfraDAO is going to test this new flow on the testnet, and I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of issues, and so we're going to work on that and eventually expand to the whole testnet, and then start small on mainnet also, probably first with InfraDAO on mainnet and then slowly expand there. It's going to be backwards compatible during the whole migration, so we're not too scared of destroying the protocol with the with the new software. If anything goes bad, we can roll back. Yeah, so that's the plan. Stuff is in many repos, so we got the graph protocol /indexer rs on all those are on GitHub, of course. So indexer rs, that's where the new indexer service is, as well as the tap agent. We got the semiotic AI /timeline aggregation protocol. That's where the tap core libraries are, and some tests also. Semiotic AI /timeline aggregation protocol contracts. That's where the contract is. Feel free to inspect that. And we also got a subgraph repo, because as it's, as for today, we use subgraphs to monitor what's going on chain, right? Monitor escrow, the escrows, and all those kinds of things. Please also check out JP54. That's where there's that's where the description of that tap protocol is, and of course, core devs call number 22 with the presentation with the details of how the protocol works behind the scenes. Yeah, that's that for tap.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. First of all, could you share the presentation in the chat? That'd be awesome. Thanks, Chris,
Yes.
for pasting a couple links. And then I'm not sure if I may have missed this, but Vince asked the question: will this solve the waiting period for claiming after closing? And then Derek responded to that, and yeah, they're going back and forth. And yeah, I figured maybe if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah. So the waiting period of claiming after closing is okay. There are two things. So I think initially the idea in the protocol was that we would let some time for arbitration to happen if something goes bad, and I think that was removed, right? Maybe 6 months or a year ago. Then another thing for the waiting period that is, I think, quite legitimate is that it takes time for the information of the allocation being closed to kind of propagate, right? Because you put that on chain, and then all the indexers that are indexing the graph subgraph will have to index that block, and it's got all to propagate all the way to the gateway for the gateway to see that it's time to stop sending queries, basically. So there's a little bit of extra time. We've added some time here. So actually, for now, and I know it's a little bit too large, we've I think we're waiting for 1 epoch before redeeming the RAV. Technically, you can redeem anytime, even in the middle of your allocation. It's just that then you won't be able to redeem again. So then whatever fees you get after that, they're lost, right? So there's no rule in the contract that says that you can't redeem, if that's the question. It's just the choice in the software right now. Okay, looking at other questions. Is it possible to step in other projects without the graph? Yes. Any plans to make that happen? Well, if there are projects out there that are interested, we'd be happy to help for sure. But yeah, it is. I mean, everything's open source also, right? You can use those repos and do it yourself, even if you wanted to. So it's yeah, we don't really have control over that. Actually, I think you could even, okay, no, I'm going to be more precise. So sadly, the only thing that's annoying, though it's small annoyance, is that the already deployed TAP contracts, you can't really leverage them because they're hard-coded to send the money to the Graph staking contract. So you would have to redeploy the TAP contracts yourself with your own parameters. But yeah, it is any projects out there that wants exact accounting and what we call microtrust here, right? And fast, high bandwidth, unidirectional micropayments, then yeah, TAP is probably the best answer out there. Is it expensive? Actually, I haven't looked into that. I think Theo would have the best view onto this because he's been working on that automated script that creates the escrow contracts. But I think in general, well, first of all, we're deploying this only on Arbitrum, right? And so I'm sure if you do a batch call on Arbitrum, as a gateway, it's not going to cost you very much. Also, a thing to keep in mind is that we're still seeing consumers as being like bulk consumers, right? And paying a few bucks for spraying escrow it shouldn't be really a problem, right?
I see Derek is typing, so we'll give him a
Yep.
chance to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, don't quote me on the few bucks, right? I haven't tried it on Arbitrum mainnet, so I don't know. Theo would be the most knowledgeable person here, though I can probably I can ask Theo. He's been testing on Arbitrum testnet, and we can see how much gas units. Yeah, depends on the number of consumers, indeed. Indeed, 𝗀𝘀𝗀𝗀, very excited. Oh, not the number of allocations. The escrows are a consumer indexer relationship. That's it. And so, yeah, we just, because at the end of the day, it's just the indexer making sure that the consumer can pay up, right? And so the allocations here don't really matter. However, the RAVs are per allocation. But I think that it's very similar to the current flow where redeeming query fees is per allocation and consumer, though there is only one consumer today, right? So yeah. Yes, same escrow across all subgraphs. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the reason we're doing that is that it's off-chain micropayments really that we're doing, and so that's why we still have to split between senders, because the sender cannot know how much another indexer is going to claim next, and it cannot make sure that there's going to be enough escrow in the future for them to claim their money. So we have to separate. Yeah, it's kind of state channels. It simplifies state channels. So of course, state channel technology that's been studied for a long time, right? And the problem with state channels is that usually they're built such that there's two participants and then can pay each other, right? And you want to maintain the balances during the whole process. Whereas here, we chopped off one direction, right? Money is going only in a single direction. So it's a very graph specific solution. Well, though, I mean, you can imagine that there's many cases like this out there, but the fact that the money goes only in one direction gave us the freedom to make it high throughput and parallel, right? Which is very important to us. Yes, across all services in the future. Yes. Yes, we hope at least most services. There's that. We're just gonna make sure so that there's peculiarities with services. Today, what we're doing is that we're doing prepayment of service, and there may be future services where we're doing post-payment. So payment after the service being rendered. And for this, I think we're gonna have to put some thought to make sure that it works well. But yeah, for all types of services where it's paid in advance or concurrently with the query, then we're good. Yeah. We'll be able to determine other indexers' escrow contracts. I mean, the amount in escrow really depends on how much the consumer was willing to put in. So that's what you'll see. Yeah. It's more like information on what the consumer is doing rather than what the indexer is doing.
But let's say that I want to be sneaky and I want to see what type of query fees Payne is racking up.
Yeah, I mean, even today you can do that, right?
After it gets claimed.
Yeah, and that's still the case.
This would give me faster time to be able to look at those types of things.
Not really, because it's off chain. So you would see it only when we reach the last step, which is that indexer agent will redeem the RAV on chain. So that would happen. It's like today, right? It's after allocation closure.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool. Any more questions? I can give also some random updates about other things, or if you guys want to, I don't know if there's anything scheduled after this.
No, it's all you. So
cool.
I see a couple people typing, but yeah, feel free to go into the other data services that Semiotic will be bringing to market pretty soon. I think that'd be interesting for people to hear.
I see there's more typing. I'll make sure, because I am working on tap only these days, right? All that and maintaining our indexer. But yeah, so other things we're working on, though, if you're following the core dev updates we post on the Graphs forum, you would already know. But so Sevi, verifiable. He's working on verifiable data on the graph, right? He is pretty much, his team is pretty much done with a tool that will verify flat files against a consensus layer client. That will enable, for example, the low-hanging fruit will enable indexers to share their flat files trustlessly. And for example, you can imagine the flow where you would download the flat files from another indexer and then start your own firehose, sync your Geth node in snap sync mode, get quickly up to chainhead, and then you can continue building up on your flat files. So you can get your firehose going in a matter of I don't know, how fast does a Geth snap mode think? I don't know. Pretty quick, right? I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks. I can't remember. So yeah, imagine that versus syncing for months and months. Get full node from Genesis, right? So that's pretty cool. I don't know if the tool has been released yet. I think we're in the latest stages of just testing, but that's pretty cool, and that's really what step zero of bringing verifiable data on the graph, right? then indeed, I'm fairly certain that's what Chris posted. 𝗨𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 presented, the long-term view of that, right? That what we could do with verifiable data on the graph, using the graph as a ZK coprocessor, using the graph as a trusted oracle, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, cool stuff. On the data services side, we are working on having a SQL service on the graph. I was at ETH Denver. Lots of people are excited about SQL. They're all, yeah, lots of people are waiting for that, including big companies. So I'm not gonna share confidential things going on, but it seems that some whale companies are also interested in consuming SQL on the graph, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, first step will be more like MVP-ish. It's not going to be a super polished service, but it's going to just let consumers access directly the database that's backing subgraphs. So that's very low-hanging fruit because indexers already have that hanging around. It's just that they're hiding it from the outside world. So yeah, letting access this, it's going to use most of the infrastructure that we're already using for GraphQL. It's not a great fit technically, but yeah, it's low-hanging fruits and MVP. We want to get it out pretty quick. Further away into the future, we want to have a proper SQL service, SQL first really service. The plan is for now to have ClickHouse, so OLAP database, very, very fast, and have the possibility of indexing events directly, dumping everything into a SQL database that people can query, and also do the equivalent of subgraphs, which would be DBT materialized view transformations on that event's data, so that people can do analytics tables on the graph, same SQL accessible. To do a nice SQL service. Sorry, I'm throwing a lot of things in your face, guys, but there's lots of thoughts, right, going on. But in terms of making that SQL service nice, we are planning on building a new let's say high-level type of data service on the graph. So today you can see that we have like a low latency, go as fast as possible service. That's the GraphQL service, where you need cost models on the gateway and payments that are payment in advance with the from the gateway. We're going to have a streaming service, of course, for streaming fast. That's something that 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗓 and Yanis have been thinking about. And we envision a new system where it's not going to be latency optimized, because usually SQL queries can be pretty, take a little bit more time. So it's really the same use case too. And so we're envisioning a system that relaxes, the latency problem. We could have long-running jobs. So not a long-running HTTP query, but actual like job. You would get a job ID, for example, that could run for it could be 500 milliseconds or 15 minutes or 3 days, whatever. And we could also have a bidding system for prices. Instead of having cost models, we could have call for bids, and an indexer would bid on the query, and then one indexer would get chosen and do the long running job. So that enables a lot of things. For example, you could base pricing on cost as for example Postgres cost estimates. So that's pretty cool. Or other, whatever the indexers would use as a system to bid on the price of a query, right? So that's pretty cool. And another one that was announced during ETH Denver by Sam is hype incoming AI service, right? And so the idea we have is that once we got that fancy new high-level data service for SQL, for the nice future SQL service, Another type of long-running jobs that we could do is AI inference. And you could imagine that we send prompts to indexers, and they can run, Llama 2 based models, or they could run Stable Diffusion model to generate images, etc. And yeah, just leveraging the marketplace and infrastructure we got for this, because it's pretty low-hanging fruit. It's pretty easy. It would just require indexers to have those models hot and ready on GPU or CPU or whatever, and just do the job, right? It's like pure compute. So yeah, all the things we're thinking about these days at Semiotic Labs. But yeah, my job is mainly TAP. So there you go. I know we've reached the end, but yeah, do you have any questions or else?
Seems like there is a question about POAPs, but that's been responded to. Let's see. Any further questions that folks have? Feel free to type in the chat. Okay, Derek seems to have one. Derek, feel free to
I'm just
either
going to talk
type it
really faster
or
than typing.
yeah, exactly.
So with TAP, so I'm just kind of imagining a world where there's multiple gateways that exist. Will indexers still have the capability of setting a certain query fee or query rate, and then communicate that to the gateway in some fashion? And then if the gateway is trying to undercut too much or whatever, it just doesn't open up an escrow account for that? I'm just kind of thinking about the concept of like public goods and things where, maybe there's a certain gateway where indexers are opting in and saying, yep, I'll provide queries for free on certain types of subgraphs or something. Something like that.
The idea for GraphQL, at least, is to still have Agora, basically. And TAP will check against the Agora model. And if it's not the amount expected, it's a no-go. So yeah, like today. Well, today, really, indexer service is trusting that the gateway is really doing the Agora thing correctly. But with TAP, though it's not implemented quite yet because it's actually a more complicated problem than you might think. But the goal is clearly to use Agora, and TAP will expect that that they get the money that the Agora model, expects.
Will indexers have the capability to choose different pricing for different consumers or different gateways?
We haven't. No, we don't. We haven't thought of that. Is that really something you would want?
I mean, the immediate example. Yeah, the immediate example that I think of is, obviously public goods. I also know that there's a wallet app called Rotkey, where they have, wallets that are querying various things, and they have a lot of different APIs, but they haven't really leveraged the graph for those. And so I'm just thinking like, okay, well, is there a world where Rotkey decides to run their own gateway? And is that something where it might have a different pricing schedule than just the normal gateway advertised on the decentralized network, or those types of things? So trying to see if that's in the future or that's not in the future.
Well, that's not planned, but it doesn't sound like something that's very hard to implement.
Okay.
Famous last words. Can we use Agora on ARB yet? Oh, so that's an interesting one, because I was confused too. So I've been poking around, and so initially my understanding was that the single network mode would be deprecated, but I may have misheard, or maybe someone told me that that's not actually working on that. Anyway, so in single network mode, Agora should work, it turns out. and the single network mode is actually not being slated to be deprecated yet. So one way to use Agora is to just roll back to the single network mode. I would expect that most of you use the multi-network mode. You actually use the multi-network mode only during your migration, and that most of us now are 100% on Arbitrum, I would think. And so if that's the case for you, then go back to single network mode, run it the old way, and that should work. I'll have to go back to AutoAgora and make sure that it's, because I kind of left it because I was running multi-network and didn't know what to do, but I'll have to go back to AutoAgora and double check that everything's happy. But it should be, because it should behave exactly the same way as when we're doing single network mode on Ethereum. So yeah, that's the gist of it. Though I might add, 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂 is working on fixing Agora on the multi-network mode. So there's that happening too behind the scenes, right?
Awesome to hear. Folks have any other questions? I see Vince is typing. Oh, he's the pray emoji. Great. That's good to hear. All right, keep them coming. So many big. Oh, yeah, that's a thank you message from Chris. Yeah, thank you, Alexi. This was incredibly informative. Yeah, it's great to have you here, and we really appreciate all of the detail and the context you've provided. And I'm sure there'll be another one as we get closer with testing. Yeah, it'd be exciting to bring this back to IOH. Alrighty, we're 7 minutes over, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to send in the chat and we'll get that answered for you via Alexi some other time. I'll take this opportunity to say thank you very much to each and one of you who've joined today, and obviously a special thank you to Alexi for going through everything as relates to TAP. As I said, very informative and very, very interesting and exciting to see how things will develop. Thank you all, and we'll see you again next time, same time, 6 p.m. UTC on Tuesday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.